All right. And once we have both the error as well as the instance method in place, now let's set up our login controller. So I want to go back to auth controller. At the moment, I have dummy response and I'll leave it because there's going to be some things that I want to showcase. And first, let's start by understanding what are we looking for. Well, if I want to log in, I want to get the email and I want to get the password. So let's go here with email and password. Now, both of those things are coming from where? Rec.body. Then let's check if one of them is missing. So I'm going to go with if not email or if not password. And if that's the case, what do we want to throw? Well, let's go with throw new and then bad request one. Correct? Bad request error. And let's just say, please provide all values. All right. So that's an awesome start. Then I want to get the user whose email matches this one, the one in rec.body. How do we do that? Well, we go with user, and then that is equal to await. Since this returns a promise, user dot, and then we're looking for find and one. And inside of the options, I want to provide the email, which is equal to my email. And at this point, essentially, I have two options. If the user exists, awesome. We will need to check the password as well. But if the user doesn't exist, then we want to send back vague, unauthenticated error response. Now, there's multiple approaches to this. Some people prefer giving a more explicit answer. For example, there is no user with such email and all that. But I actually prefer the other option where you provide as little data as possible. So let's go here with if. And if there is no user, then let's go with throw. And remember, now we have that new unauthenticated error. The only thing we need to do here, if you didn't do that already, is to go up and just say unauthenticated error from index.js. Let's save this. And at the moment, I'll have the error. That's fine. Let's just go with unauthenticated. And like I said, I'm going to be pretty vague and I'm just going to say invalid and credentials, like so. Let's save it. Now, if we have the user, so if the user exists with such email, what do we want to do next? Well, we want to compare the password, correct? With our user compare password method. However, I want to tell you that there is a big gotcha coming up, and that has everything to do with the fact that when we were setting up here the password, we actually went with select and false. So let me showcase that. First, I want to go back to auth controller, more specifically login one. Let's log the user, and then let me showcase the error that we're going to go back. So first, let's go with const and then is password correct. That's going to be my variable. Now that is equal to await. And what is the instance name? Well, it is user and then compare password, like so. And then we want to pass in the password we have in the rec.body. And then let's check what is the value. So what is the value of is match? And as a side note, this should be correct, not just is password. And then I'll copy and paste just to speed this up. And essentially, the error is going to be the same if the passwords don't match. The only difference is the fact that in here we're checking for is password correct. But like I said, when we will test this out, I can tell you right away that it will be false. There's actually going to be error. Why? Well, let me showcase that. So I'm going to navigate back to the Postman and I'm looking for the login one. And let's set up one from the scratch. So I have login user, the route is auth login. We already did that when we were checking the dummy values. So now let me go with JSON here. And then let's send email. Now that one will be equal to john@gmail.com. And then as far as the password, if I remember correctly, I set up secret because that's a very secure password. So let's send it here and check it out. Now I have illegal arguments, string, and undefined. And that is coming from our bcrypt library, actually. So in here, I can see the all error and all of that is nice. Now let's go over why we have this error in the first place. And it's very important for me to showcase the object that we have as far as the user. So notice our document. I have the ID, I have the name, email, last name, and location. Now, what I don't have there, I don't have the password. Why? This. select and false. And now let's keep scrolling and take a look at our compare password. Candidate password we pass in, that should be good. What about this sucker? This is looking for what? Password. Where? In the document. Do we have it? No. And bcrypt is like, look, you passed in string, you passed in undefined. What is wrong with you? What am I supposed to do over here? So how do we fix that? Well, remember, when we talked about select false, we also looked at the docs that we can override that. If you remember when we were setting up create, I said that it's actually not going to work, meaning we will get the password over here in the user. That's why we were doing all of these acrobatics where I went with email, and blah, blah, blah. In this case, everything works. When we go with find one, we don't get the password. But this is the case where we actually need it. Don't you find that ironic? I do. And in order to fix that, we need to overwrite when we are setting up our find one. The way we do that, we go with dot and then select. And now I need to go with plus and then password, because by default, it's not going to be provided. And now everything is going to work. Now there's another gotcha, but we'll get to it in a second. So let's try it out one more time. I'll leave all the logs just so we're clear of what's happening. And then let's go back and then let's send it one more time. And now everything is correct. I get back my login user. And if I take a look at my object right now, then everything's correct. ID, name, and yada, yada, yada. So again, select false means that we're not going to get that property in our response, in our document. However, if we want to add it, we go with select and then whatever is the name of the property. And this is important because user is an instance method. So this dot password is looking back to this object and saying, get me the password property. Hopefully that is clear. And now we simply want to do three things. We want to set up the token. We want to send back the response. And we want to fix one gotcha that is still lurking. So let's go here with token. That is equal to user. And then I'm going to go to create and JWT. That was the function. And now let's set up our response. And let's see the problem. And then we'll add the fix. So let's go here with res.status. And I'm going to go here with status codes and OK. And as a side note, in between the videos, I fixed the tiny bug I had in the previous and register. This should be created. That's a proper response when you create a resource on a server. This is 201 and I went with OK. My apologies. So in this case, yeah, we go with 200, but in there, we have to go with 201. And then we go with a JSON. And I don't want to do the acrobatics again. I don't want to go with user and then blah, 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 because it's kind of annoying. I'm copying, pasting the code. I'll still use the token and location, but I actually want to set this user equal to a user. And of course, the problem is that we have the password there, right? And I said that, well, it's not the best approach doing that way. So let's just start by user token and then location. It's going to be equal to user and location. And let me double check that's definitely a response. And yes, I see the password over here. And what can we do now? Because I do need the password here. I want to check it. And as I note, I think I can remove the user. But how I can remove it from the response here? Again, yes, you can hard code that like we did in the register. But another way how we can do that, I can simply set the password property equal to undefined. So I'm going to go here with user, then password, and I'll set it equal to undefined. And as a result, what you'll notice that I get back my user object. So all of that is correct, but the password is not there. And if you're wondering, hey, look, but when we were setting up register, there were less properties and now we have more of them. Keep in mind that on a front end, we look for specific properties. So the fact that there's an extra ID doesn't really affect us. As long as we're not sending back sensitive data like password, we're actually in good shape. And we also have the token as well as the location. So that's how we can set up our login controller, check for empty values, then check for the user, check for the password, remove the password from the response, and send back user token as well as the location.